Story 1. This is ironic, but consider how much time people spend on their phones and how preoccupied they are. It is acceptable to look up from your phone to greet someone or order a meal. Story 2. People who walk side by side and take up the entire width of the walkway deserve double judgment if they walk slowly. Triple judgment if they suddenly stop and try to figure out where to go. My goodness, some people were just born to block others' way. Story 3. Not saying please, thank you, or sorry in public interactions. For example, bumping into someone, trying to get through a crowd or a small area, or saying thank you when a waiter brings you an item or when someone hands you something. Story 4. I'm a mom and I do my absolute best not to judge other parents, but some people behave very irresponsibly. There are people who let their kids hit others, parents who don't watch their children because they are glued to their phones. An infant even fell off a bench and hurt their head while the mother was distracted. Some parents do not feed their kids, smoke near their children, or leave them in diapers for an entire day. Some people do not deserve to be parents. I am judging some parents, and I believe society should hold them more accountable. Story 5. Parents when their child is walking around with food all over their face. I know you have to pick your battles in parenting and you are often fighting for your life, but come on, get a wipe and clean their face. Story 6. Falling for scams and fake information. I know I should not judge people for it because we are all susceptible to being fooled, but it is difficult not to judge those who fall for things that seem obvious, especially when they become arrogant about how smart they think they are. I am referring to multi-level marketing schemes, cryptocurrency schemes, get-rich-quick scams, and other fraudulent activities. Story 7. When they do not change the toilet paper roll once it is finished, and simply place the new roll on top of the empty cardboard tube. Story 8. I'm sorry, but people who have children without any financial stability. In my country, children are often seen as a form of wealth, so it is common to see families struggling to survive with many children. You will even hear things like, "Children are a blessing. One of them will save me from poverty someday." I find this mindset unfair, both to the children and to society, which eventually has to absorb the consequences. A child deserves a chance to grow and thrive, not to worry about whether they will have something to eat at night. Story 9. How they choose to exist on public roadways shows if they are capable of thinking collectively or only about themselves. Story 10. Am I the only one who does not easily judge people because I am overthinking whether they are judging me? Story 11. Their religion. Yes, I know everyone has freedom of religion. However, sometimes their religion is very close to a cult. Story 12. Having more children after saying they did not want to have the first two and that they were accidents. I judge people who like Colleen Hoover books. I judge people based on whether they are willing to try food from different countries. Story 13. Whether they read or not, I know I should not, but there is a small part of me that instantly judges how smart someone is by their reading patterns and preferences. Story 14. How nice they are to others when there is no benefit to being nice, except for the other person. Story 15. How they present themselves. I work in a dental office and I am astonished at how some people leave their house. No, I do not care if you have expensive clothes, nice shoes, or makeup on, but wow, brush your teeth. Put on some clean clothes, not full pajamas, and wash your face. Story 16. Parents who walk ahead of their young children, especially in shopping centers, or parents who completely ignore a child when they are clearly trying to engage for attention. I understand that kids can be exhausting, but many people underestimate the effects of being ignored as a child. Story 17. Yes, you can wear those unpleasant pajamas in public technically, but you look untidy. Bonus points if I can smell them. It would not be the first time. Story 18. This is probably the most middle-class white person thing I have ever written, but when I am at a dinner party and there is a cheese board with only cheeses, butter, and crackers provided without fruit or pickles for contrast, I send them straight to hell. Story 19. Manners and kindness, especially towards others. Open the door for people. Help the elderly person with their bags. If someone drops something, pick it up. Story 20. Constantly complaining about how bad their life is and never seeing the positive in anything. Story 21. When people's windshield wipers are on the highest setting unless it is absolutely pouring, I do not know why, but I always judge them. Story 22. I feel terrible because I am not very skinny myself, although definitely not obese. However, when very overweight people wear very tight or very revealing clothing, I have an automatic negative reaction. I am trying to actively notice this and stop it. Story 23. How they treat waitstaff shows a lot about a person. You learn a lot about someone by how they treat people they do not have to be nice to. Story 24. People who cannot be bothered to write out full words. Okay, thanks, bye, just kidding, laughing out loud. I am sure this is because of my age. Story 25. Not doing what you say you do. You preach a religion of no alcohol but spend Saturday night drinking. You say abortion kills babies, but it is different for your 15-year-old daughter because of any reason you choose. You are not judgmental, but you talk behind your friends' backs all the time about anything, from their clothing choices to their home cleanliness. You say all people are equal and you love your neighbor as yourself, but you are condescending to service staff, move to the other side of the street if you see a homeless person, move out of your neighborhood when people of a different race start moving in, and think interracial relationships are an abomination. Again, you say one thing and do another. Story 26. For having children but spending more time with friends than with their children. Just do not have children. Do not have children if you are poor and expect others to raise them. You must be able to provide for your children. This should be basic. Children are not pets. They require a lot. Story 27. What is in their grocery cart in relation to their physical appearance? Parents with overweight children should be mindful of the food they buy. I feel concerned when I see a cart full of unhealthy food because no 5 or 6-year-old should be overweight. Story 28. People use their religion to condemn others. I am not religious, but having a religion is fine, especially if connected to culture. It is no big deal to me. That is your business and you are entitled to your beliefs. However, that is no excuse to be an unpleasant person. You do not get to say that because you believe one thing is true and think your religion is the real one, you are right in telling others they are going to hell. Your religion is yours, but do not be a jerk about it. Story 29. People who use their speakerphone in public, holding it like a slice of pizza, deserve a special place in hell. Story 30. They are kids. I understand some children behave poorly, but it is your responsibility as a parent to teach them. If your child is damaging a local establishment and you do not intervene, I cannot respect you, even if we have never met. Story 31. People who do not correct their children's bad behavior in public and just let them do whatever they want are causing problems. If my siblings and I misbehaved, we were immediately sent home without receiving anything. If we were at a restaurant, we did not get any food from there. If it was for clothes, we simply did not get new clothes. I want people to stop raising poorly behaved and selfish children because these parents do not want to fulfill their responsibilities, which results in equally problematic adults. I am not talking about those who try really hard and still fail. I am talking about those who do not try at all or even give you a hostile look if you dare to accuse their children of disturbing other customers. Story 32. Judging sounds paradoxical, but people who dislike or judge someone based on a single action create a negative impression. Story 33. Outside of their house or living situation, can you not leave garbage everywhere? If it looks like that on the outside, what is it like inside? Even if you rent, you can still keep it tidy. Story 34. Their movie taste. I try not to judge it outwardly. You can like whatever you want. For example, if someone told me Gods of Egypt is their favorite movie of all time, sure, but damn. Story 35. For me, I do not care what size you are, small, medium, or large. But it drives me nuts when I see people wearing clothes that are not appropriate for their size. Story 36. Seeing disrespect from their children in public is somewhat ironic because now that I have a child, I realize I do not want to be an authoritarian parent. However, we will see what happens. Story 37. If I am queuing at the checkouts in a supermarket, I will often look at what the person in front of me is buying, and I will judge. Story 38. Spelling by native speakers. Misusing apostrophes, such as in too many felines, Homophones, for example, bear and bear, using laugh out loud in sentences. Unnecessary abbreviations in email, such as, "Are you serious?" Edited for clarity so that you all do not judge me. Story 39. Being immature. I have come to realize that severe immaturity often stems from unresolved trauma or poor parenting, leaving individuals emotionally stuck at a younger age. As a result, the world is full of adults who are, in many ways, still children, throwing tantrums, avoiding responsibility, and struggling to act like grown-ups when it truly matters. Many go on to raise children of their own while never having grown up themselves, continuing the cycle and causing even more harm. Story 40. People who impose their sense of duty to love their parents on me. We all did not have great parents. No, I will not change my mind just as I cannot change my past. Story 41. Living in a country different from one's origin and not learning or using greetings such as good morning, good afternoon, good evening, please, and thank you in the local language. Story 42. Driving a big truck. In my head, they are all climate change deniers who are overcompensating. But in reality, some of them probably just have construction jobs or like to sit up high in traffic. Story 43. When people get too personal too quickly, it may seem mean, but I do not need to know your entire medical situation in the first conversation. Also, everyone deserves hobbies, but if yours involves guns, then I already think you are unpleasant. Story 44. I judge people who ask questions that have already been asked at least 25 times. If they scroll down just a little bit, they would see that someone else already asked the question not very long ago. Story 45. Being loud. I know some people grow up in loud families or become loud when they get excited, but I immediately want to get away. Story 46. Wearing pajamas in public is not appropriate. You don't have to wear a ball gown to the grocery store, but at least put on actual pants and a clean shirt. No wonder you feel bad about yourself. Story 47. Face and hand tattoos often suggest poor judgment and delusional thinking. It may be because I come from a different generation, but still being in the workforce, I have to admit that at my workplace, you rarely see people with tattoos on their hands or faces. I do not judge these individuals in terms of wanting to avoid speaking to them. Internally, however, I believe there is a disconnect regarding the reality of how they will be treated and perceived by others, especially in the employee-employer relationship. Employers may claim they cannot discriminate against employees for having such tattoos, but at the same time, an employer is not required to disclose or be honest about such decisions. On the other hand, I do appreciate the group mentality behind it and the dedication involved. Around 2012, a large segment of the population adopted the attitude that they could not be stopped and even had the word hustle tattooed on their eyebrow. Story 48. Their posture. When someone does not stand up straight unless there is a medical reason, I cannot help but judge because your stance is the very first impression someone gets of you. I unfortunately always judge someone by their posture. Story 49. Their inability to match the windshield wiper speed to the appropriate speed for the amount of rain hitting the windshield at any given time. Story 50. Walking slowly. Please get out of my way. Yes, I equate your slow walking speed with a low intelligence quotient. Story 51. Facial tattoos, except for religious reasons such as those among native peoples, are not just about the tattoo itself but more about the thought process that led to considering it a good idea. Story 52. Being inexperienced with technology, to the point that they rely on their colleagues, regardless of specialism or seniority, to do all their technical administration for them. Oh, you are familiar with the latest trends. Can you just show me how my email works? I am glad you are here to book us a meeting room, as I have never bothered to learn how. Story 53. If they leave the bathroom and I know they did not wash their hands, or if their fingernails are black from dirt underneath, it grosses me out very much. Story 54. If someone has body odor, I understand that some people cannot control it, but I am very particular about hygiene and sensitive to smells. Story 55. Audiobooks. I read 3 books this week, and they were via audiobooks. It is not reading. I am sorry, but it feels good to let that out. Story 56. People who order steak well done often have other qualities or behaviors that I do not like. Nothing personal, just what I have observed. Story 57. Having children even though they cannot afford their care, have many hereditary issues, and hold problematic habits and opinions that would not translate well into their role as a parent. For example, my parents. Story 58. Saying they do not have time to read. I am an English major, so it feels annoying to say. Yes, it is hard to make time, but eventually you get around to it. You either want to or you do not, and most of the people who say this are constantly on their phone. Story 59. Not returning the shopping cart is inconsiderate. I understand that elderly individuals might find this difficult, but I will even offer to take it for them. If you are able-bodied, it is rude and lazy not to do so. Story 60. People who have more than one child. You do not need 5 children. You do not own a farm. You do not need to have many children because winter will take half, and half of them will not die of scarlet fever. Have one and be done. Story 61. I am going to receive a lot of criticism for this, and I am embarrassed to admit it, but here it is. I silently judge obese people. I have never made fun of anyone or treated anyone differently for being overweight, but I do silently judge them. My mother, father, and sister all died directly as a result of being overweight. It is one of the few health epidemics that is completely curable. Even if you are genetically predisposed to being overweight, if it is a thyroid issue, there is affordable medicine available to treat it. I just do not understand the mindset. Story 62. Probably their immaturity. I do not know why, but I cannot stand immature people, especially those who deliberately act like children just to get attention from others. Story 63. Really long artificial nails. It is unwise to judge others based on their appearance if it is harmless and brings them happiness, but I find them unattractive. Story 64. Shoes, my man, shoes. Even in jeans and a t-shirt, wear good shoes. Women judge men by their shoes. Advice from a former shoe salesman. Buy your partner shoes as a gift. They will love you forever. Story 65. Modifying your body, such as lip fillers or nose jobs, irritates me every time I see it. If you have large scars and feel uncomfortable, it is fine to cover them up. However, if you are doing it just to look prettier, it is unacceptable. People who alter their bodies to look unnatural are unappealing, and I will always disapprove of those who do it. Story 66. Not liking any fruits or vegetables. I know there are valid reasons like sensory issues and avoidance/restrictive food intake disorder, but I can't help thinking it is somewhat childish. Story 67. Bad breath. I understand. Sometimes hygiene is a struggle. Sometimes people just do not know. Sometimes they have just eaten lunch. I am sure sometimes I have bad breath, but it is unpleasant. Story 68. Wrinkled clothes. I had a candidate show up for an interview with a wrinkled tie. How can I trust you with the very expensive, finely calibrated equipment required for this job if your tie is wrinkled? How do you even wrinkle a tie? Story 69. Cleanliness, proper grammar and speech pronunciation, decorum in social spaces, and overall presentation in the outside world. Story 70. How much they are invested in their social media persona and how fake that persona is compared to their real self. Story 71. The way they dress is mostly about effort. Are you wearing pajamas outdoors? Are the clothes clean and flattering? Story 72. How people drive. I drive a lot, and I drove for work for almost 10 years. The majority of people I am in the passenger seat with drive me nuts with their driving. Bad braking, bad turns, jumpy steering input, and not knowing what engine braking is. I hate riding with 99% of people. I cannot really blame them, though, because driver education in the United States is a joke, and almost every car has an automatic transmission here. Most people do not know how a vehicle functions mechanically here, and in my opinion, that leads to a lot of poor drivers. Story 73. Relying on their significant others for everything. My friend does not contribute. His girlfriend cooks, cleans, and works. He works and plays video games. Story 74. I judge men quietly when their wife is in the bathroom and they do not want to wait for her to sit down. We always offer to seat them now or when she returns, but I prefer waiting a few minutes so she is not wandering around lost. not knowing where you are seated. Story 75. Not taking pride in their children's appearance. For example, unbrushed hair, dirty clothes, and bare feet in public. Story 76. I judge the parents of obese children, not the children themselves, as it is not their fault. There is no reason why a toddler or adolescent should be morbidly obese, and there is no excuse for taking that child to get even more treats and junk food. It feels like witnessing abuse. Story 77. Speaking negatively about others without justification. When someone has intentionally done something wrong, that is understandable. However, if they are doing their best, it is unkind. Treating animals poorly. Story 78. If they smoke. I am sure there are many lovely people who smoke. Killed my mother and father and traumatized me as a child. Having to smell it, empty the ashtrays, our house and everything in it covered in tar. Breathing it in, having asthma because of it, my mother smoking while pregnant, and I was born weighing 5 pounds. Kids made fun of me at school because I smelled, then watching it take both my parents, who were good people, away. It is gross. Disgusting even. They litter their cigarette butts everywhere. It is expensive and will kill you. Some of my favorite famous people smoke, and when I find out, it is such a letdown. Story 79. Admitted hospital patients who refuse all types of care and become upset over minor inconveniences, such as not having snacks available overnight, can be challenging. This is especially true for those who threaten to leave against medical advice if their demands are not met. In my thoughts, I often think, then please leave and go home. I don't mind, because there are many other patients waiting for a bed who genuinely want to get better. Story 80. Parents who ignore their children. I am not a parent yet, so I do not really have a leg to stand on. But come on, do not just hand them a tablet and walk away. Story 81. Marriage. When you ask them what their dreams are, they reply, I want to get married and have children. I just can't understand the rush, but maybe I am just too judgmental. Story 82. Having more than 2 or 3 children, nearing close to 10 and pregnant again, you can push them off you and protect yourself if needed. There is no reason to have so many children. I will never believe you own and operate a farm. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.